мною принято решение о проведении специальной военной операции.
We are under attack. It is an attack against Western democracies and on the institutions that bind them.
What Russia's much more interested in doing is depicting the West as a failure.
The regime and President Yanukovych, they were trying to protect their enormous wealth.
This is Kremlin File.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Kremlin File. And we have a really honored guest with us today, Olena Halushka. Olena, thank you for coming.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah.
Thank
Olena,
you.
let's jump right in, okay? Because we know that you're extremely busy with all the campaigns that you're running, okay, for Ukraine with all of your colleagues at the International Center for Ukrainian Victory. So we want to make sure, okay, to give you time to explain lots and lots of things, okay, for our listeners and for whoever is watching. First of all, let's start with the update from Ukraine. Exactly what's going on, and also on the border, at Kharkiv, because we're all watching. We know there are various hotspots, but go ahead, tell us what's happening.
So first of all, the message that I want to deliver to all of the Ukraine supporters is that Russia did not abandon their eventual goal to either subjugate Ukraine or destroy Ukraine. And unfortunately, they are having a small window right now to bring as much destruction at Ukraine as possible. Because of the delays of Western aid, Ukraine presently still feels the hunger in ammunition on the front lines and the hunger of the air defense missiles to cover our energy infrastructure. And that has a very bad implications on the ground. And here I would like to address two main important issues. First, frontline, and the second, energy infrastructure, and basically the towns, cities in the rear. So on the front lines, all eyes are at the Kharkiv region. That's true. Russia is trying to assault there. They are trying to push the Ukrainian defenders in the Kharkiv region. They are attacking very violently the frontline communities. I mean, over one day, they can launch 20 very powerful guided bombs. And very few people understand what are those glide bombs, because Russia is having them almost unlimited stocks. How do they produce those bombs? They take a very powerful 500 kilograms, 1.5 tons. They are presently trying to upgrade it to up to 3 tons bombs, Fugas bombs that were developed to basically strike bunkers. And they are adding the wings, tail, and can fire those bombs from the fighter jets. And they can glide. Last year, it was 50 kilometers. This year, it's already 90 kilometers, which means that they are firing them from outside of the range of Ukraine's air defenses, because you cannot bring the sophisticated system like Patriot close to the front line, because that would be a sweet target for Russia. So the only way to counter the problem of the glide bombs is to have the fighter jets, much more powerful than Russian MiGs and Sus. And for that purpose, we need F-16 as soon as possible, because that's the only way, to scare Russian jets far from the glide range, so their Cub bombs cannot target the frontline communities or the frontline or the border communities. Also, Russia is attacking the community of Vovchansk and neighboring villages with everything, with artillery, with MLRS, with Grads. And I'm reading the reports from there which is that there is the air raid alarm off presently. And so in terms of Vovchansk community, they are very heavily attacked by Russians, plus they are trying, to have ground assaults there. So that's the problem. And how can Ukrainian defenders be reinforced? The easiest way is to support any drone fundraisers of the reputable organizations, because drones, and particularly, I mean, FPV drones, they were playing an important role of the substitution. Well, it's not actually substitution, but at least partly it helped to hold the front lines when the ammunition wasn't coming. So the drones, they are basically rescuing the lives of the Ukrainian defenders. So there are many different funds, charities in Ukraine, like Come Back Alive charity, Pritulas Foundation. There are several different individual volunteers like Sternenko or Yana Schidna, who are reputable, and they are doing the fundraisers. So any support for them would be very welcome, because that would have almost immediate implications on the ground. But also Russians continue pushing a lot in the Donetsk region. After they captured Avdiivka, they continue pushing there, because it's Putin's crazy and sick plan to have at least some celebrations. And one of the celebrations he is looking for is getting entire Donetsk and Luhansk oblasts occupied, and that's what they are presently trying to do on the Avdiivka direction. So that's also the area where all eyes should be now.
Yeah. Can I ask you a follow-up question with this, Olena?
Sure.
You mentioned the F-16s. What is the status of that right now? Are they coming? What is going on with that? Because it's extremely important. You mentioned the infrastructure and how it's important to protect the skies. Can you give us a little more information on that? And then I have another question as well for you.
Well, it's a very good question, which we continue asking our partners over and over again, because the deadlines for the deliveries is kind of delaying and being pushed over and over again. And according to the previous deadlines for the deliveries, they had to be in Ukraine by March, but then it was delayed till summer. Now I'm reading the reports from the MOD of the Netherlands that their supplies are again, scheduled for autumn. And we have no idea what is the reason for that. I mean, there was the information that the training of the pilots are kind of taking more time, but our partners have to understand that every delay costs the lives of our best professionals. And I mean, we were cooperating very closely with Ukrainian pilot Jus Andriy, who was one of the strongest advocates of the F-16, but unfortunately he was killed in action. And the longer those delays, are happening, the less professional pilots, kind of the ready to go, are left in Ukraine, and the more and more time would be needed for the trainings. So that's something which we try to deliver to our partners, this message of the urgency, that if the supplies of the weapons are stuck in bureaucracy, then at a certain time, we might be facing the shortage of manpower.
Yeah. In fact, Olena, just going through, let's say if people are on social media, please go on to Olena's feeds, because there's so many young men, young women, who have been killed in action, or their families, that have been killed. These are real people. We're not talking about, a little maps that people can look at, on social media. This said, I wanted you, if you could give a little, the occupation of a territory, because this is something that a lot of people in the Western countries do not pay any attention to. They think that giving weapons, okay, is, okay, I mean, obviously we don't, but we hear this awful, awful narrative that giving weapons is not necessary, or come on, they should. It's extremely important also because of the occupation, Can you tell us a little bit about what it means for people who live under occupation?
I think, Monique, that you are putting your finger exactly on the issue. And that's something we've seen a lot in countries like Italy, and not only, that, Russian propaganda is getting much smarter. And Russia doesn't want their agents, to be putting Russian flag on their, forefront, and go to the streets and chant, "We are for Russia, we are for Russia." No, I mean, they are putting a lot on the so-called pacifists and people who either for real, out of naivety, or maliciously start promoting this narrative that peace will be brought when Ukraine, simply lays down weapons, and basically, that's it. Let it be the ceasefire, let it be a bad peace, but bad peace is much better than war, than no peace. But the problem with this approach is that it completely and fully ignores what is happening in the occupation. And I'm reading very closely the Telegram channels of the Mariupol City Council, who members who are following the developments in their hometown very closely. And to be honest, sometimes I'm truly terrified from the scale of genocide which is happening there. And here I mean specifically how Russians are erasing and destroying the Ukrainian identity of their kids, of Ukrainian kids. I mean, they are changing curriculum educational. They are not bringing Russian curriculum. They are preparing the special curriculum for the occupied territories, because they need to brainwash those kids much harder, and they need to portray Ukrainians, as Nazis and, as war criminals. And then they have, Russian flags hanging all over the schools, and Russian anthem, singing, and there is very big militarization in the Mariupol, not only Mariupol, I mean, that's happening in Donetsk, in Luhansk, in Berdyansk, Melitopol, and a lot of others. I mean, they are preparing the soldiers out of Ukrainian kids in the occupation, who will be sent, to assault and kill the Ukrainians at the governmental control territories of Ukraine in the next phases of the Russian imperialistic contest. And then, I mean, I'm not even speaking about the mass kidnapping, when the kids from the orphanages or, the kids whose relatives were killed, the way how they are kidnapped, how they are put illegally into Russian families, where they are also re-educated and, feel very strong pressure and a lot of the anti-Ukrainian propaganda. And that's only one of the cases. Then you are having, mass political assassinations of the people who have a pro-Ukraine stance, or who can be pro-Ukrainian. I mean, I was stricken very much by what I read about the torture prison Izolatia in the Donetsk region, in Donetsk. And there was very interesting, horrifying fact that Russians were putting into that prison not only people with a pro-Ukrainian stance, but also people sympathetic to Russian regime. Why? Because they wanted everybody to be scared. They wanted everybody to be terrified.
Terrorized.
And, to simply live in this feeling and atmosphere of utmost terror. That's what is happening in the occupation. That's concentration camp in all of the deoccupied territories, we are seeing mass graves. We are seeing, a lot of civilians, unarmed people who were simply tortured, killed. We are seeing the torture chambers where inhuman treatment was applied to ordinary random people simply because they are Ukrainians, and so on and so forth. And people very often want to turn the blind eye on this reality because you do not have that much of the news coming from the occupation, because that's the first thing which Russians are doing. They are cutting all of the communication channels, and if they notice, somebody to share the information with people in the free world, they will be the targets for the persecutions too. And that's why, the less information you have, the easiest it is to say that, hey, we do not know what's happening there in the occupation, but that's probably peace because the bombs are not falling. But except bombs, there are plenty of different other tools and weapons of the Russian war, and occupation is one of them.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you made all of this very clear. And you're so right, because we turn on our TVs, especially here, that I'm in Italy. It is just absolutely unacceptable. It's horrific to see how they are justifying this kind, of regime that we know, right, is in place. So thank you for making that extremely clear, for everyone who's listening. Olga, you wanted to step in?
Well, I just want to remind everyone that this has been happening since 2014, when everyone was touting Russia as, a normal state, and European and U.S. partners running around with business deals, Nord Stream pipeline too, that there were concentration camps set up on occupied territory, that there were disappearances, kidnappings of children, brainwashing of children, torture, castrations, everything we're seeing on a mass scale across all of Ukraine was happening, and people turned a blind eye to it until 22, when bombs started falling across all of Ukraine. And hopefully people will, wake up to this fact, because this is not just handing away territory. This is handing away your house with your wife and your children to be left to either be raped and tortured, murdered, and a million brainwashed, and a million other things.
To help us out with our independent work, please subscribe to Kremlin File on Substack and on our YouTube channel. Kremlin File is hosted by Olga and me, Monique Camarra. Our production team is headed by Maddie Kaparov, and the theme music by Oreste Camarra. So please don't forget to visit our Kremlin File Substack for links to our socials and to wherever you'd like to listen to podcasts.